Well, I'd like to kind of surprise all of you, because usually, as I found out from my children, they said the best stuff you always save to the end. Well, I thought I'd put it at the front. So you get to eat the frosting before the cake, okay? And I'd like to just give you the application of this before we even study what Psalm 19 says. Because if we're here this morning, and if Jesus Christ is the radiance of God's glory, and if He offers Himself to us to reveal the very glory of God, what could we personally do to magnify Him this morning? Well, I thought of just a few, and you might want to write these down. And before we actually get into the study of the glory of God, I want to give you the application, because maybe in this service you can do it. Maybe some of you haven't worshiped God in ages. Maybe some of you have never worshiped God. Maybe that young lady that came in that someone led to Christ this morning, if she didn't have to go home, maybe she ended up staying and can hear it. Maybe she's in the overflow. I don't know. Maybe it's your first time to worship Christ. How do you do it? I'd like to just give you a few of the Bible's suggestions, delineations of how we magnify God. I mean, it's hard to believe. It'd be kind of like me saying that an ant or one of those slugs, that eats my flowers can magnify me. I'm bigger and better than those things, right? A little bit. Maybe. I'm not sure, The more I think about, what they can do, what I can't do. But try and think of the greatest disparity you can think of in life. Between us and God is so much bigger. It's such a chasm. And how can that ant do anything that would magnify me? In my estimation, it can't. But God says we can magnify Him. And so if God wants me to do it, if He's asked me to do it, if He's offered me the opportunity, I hope you'll avail yourself of the opportunity. And you will, by your life, and with your lips, and with your mouth, and with your heart, and with all that's within you, that you will say, God, I want to magnify You. I want to adore You. I want to worship and glorify Your name. Now that's where a lot of the Baptists and the Presbyterians and, the frozen in the pew, Bible church people, I shall not be moved. I will not get emotional. I will not get, like those wild people that do all that, I won't do that, we're just going to stay. And you know what we do? We lose some of the awesomeness. I mean, I've seen good, staunch, frozen Baptists and Bible church people get out of their mind at football and basketball games. I've seen them break into tears at their children's graduations and recitals and at weddings, and I've seen them just, get ebullient and radiant and effervescent and everything else, but not at church, Well, maybe we should. And I'm not proposing, anything wild. I'm just saying this, that we should magnify Him. How do we do that? Well, one is we can hallow His presence. Listen to Exodus 3, 5, and 6. Hallow His presence. What does that mean? It means that we ought to not just come lightly into the presence of God. We should not come before Him lightly. That's why I teach our children. It was a tremendous joy last night. I got in late, and Bonnie said, you ought to go and see. They're ready for church. I said, okay. And so I went walking around, and I looked, and I saw clothes set out, shoes set out. I saw Bibles and cases and everything. They wanted to be ready because they're coming before God. It's interesting. Some people get more ready for their aerobics class than they do to worship God. They get ready for golfing. They're looking at their stuff and polishing and getting all their things in the right spot, and they wear these expensive outfits. But when they come to church, it's like, man, I didn't even know I was coming, but I'm here. What a tragedy. Hallow His presence. What? Moses. Look at Exodus 3, 5, and 6, or listen at least. Then he said, don't come near me, Moses. This is God talking out of the burning bush. Take your sandals off your feet. Don't come in a mundane, don't come in a common, casual way before me. Come in hallowing my presence. Take your sandals off your feet. The place where you stand is holy ground. You know the hymn? We are standing on holy ground. Have you ever thought about that? This building, as as I've said many times, I mean, they could use this for a gymnasium tomorrow. There's nothing essentially, innately, intrinsically holy about this building until you get here, until the saints come in. And now it's holy. This is the holy place of God right now. Have you taken off your earthly shoes? I don't mean what you're wearing right now. I mean, have you set aside the earthly and hallowed the presence of God? I mean, it's really neat. You just, all of a sudden, you stop thinking about, what time and the game and dinner and homework and, where we're going to go to and all that. You hallow him. Moreover, he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. Now, none of us have ever been in the mountaintop. None of us have ever seen the blue pavement and God's throne sitting there. We've never eaten up on the mountain in front of God. We have never radiated our faces, globes. We had to cover them up. We have never seen God write with his finger in stone. We've never done any of that stuff before. But he did. And it scared him. And he hallowed the presence of God. Secondly, not only should we hallow his presence, that would magnify him, but we need to fear his holiness. Listen to Judges 13, 21 and 22. When the angel of the Lord appeared no more to Manoah and his wife, these are Samson's parents, then Manoah knew that he was the angel of the Lord, and Manoah said to his wife, we will die because we have seen God. Wow. You know what that is? That's fearing the holiness of God. That's saying, I know who I am. I know what I am. I know that I fall so far short of your glory. And you're so holy and I'm so unholy. Fearing his holiness, that's what we're going to see in the next part of Psalm 19. It's about the divine condition of fearing God. And what we need to do is to magnify God. We need to fear his holiness. We need to be like Joseph. I mean, Joseph was all alone. He was a red-blooded teenager, or maybe a little older, and he had a woman make a pass at him, and no one would have ever found out. I mean, she was willing, and it was private and everything else, and he says, are you kidding? God's here. She said, where? Which God? He said, the living and true God is here, and I'm in front of him all the time, and I wouldn't think of doing that in his presence. This morning, if there's something you regret from your past, from your dating life, or from your business life, or from your marriage life, it was done when you were ignoring the presence of God, because he's always been there. Whether you're saved or lost, he's always been there. And when we sin willfully, we are going and closing the curtains and shutting the blinds and turning the lights out. We think so he won't see. And we are not fearing his holiness.